Taken from On Mankind by Arthur Dyot Thomson. On Mankind, Their Origin and Destiny. Arthur Dyot Thomson held a Master of Arts from Balliol College, Constituent College of Oxford, one of the oldest colleges in the world. This is from 1872. Moses was twice married, and each time married foreign and idolatrous wives, which is quite inconsistent with his prohibiting the Israelites from doing the same thing. His parents called him Joachim in the Initiated, after he had been taken up to heaven called him Melsi. The Kabbalists held that the soul of Seth had passed into Moses. Manetho, quoted by Josephus, says he was a priest of Heliopolis, and that he afterwards took the name of Moshe or Moses. Continuing down here, Moses was an Egyptian, born and brought up in that country, and had been employed, as Josephus tells us, in the service of Egypt in a war against the Ethiopians. He was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and that's taken out of Acts 7:22. He was brought up at the court of Egypt. The king's daughter is said to have found him abandoned at the river's side, and to have caused him to be nursed by his mother, after which she adopted him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. The epistle to the Hebrews pretends that Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. But independently of the impossibility of Moses knowing anything about Christ, the genuineness of this epistle is more than doubtful, as will be shown subsequently. Moses was instructed in science by the Egyptian priests. The Acts of the Apostles state positively that this was the case. Simplicius says that Moses received from the Egyptians in the mysteries, the doctrine which he taught to the Hebrews. In Origen and Clemens Alexandrinus both affirm that the secret learning of the Egyptians was only taught to such persons as had been circumcised, for which reason it was submitted to by Pythagoras. Pythagoras in the Orphic tradition, having taken his own mysteries from Babylon and Egypt, allegedly spending 12 years apiece there, so working directly with the Magi and so on and so forth. The act of circumcision being a sort of lesser form of the emasculation suffered at the hands of the dying and rising god, or suffered by the dying and rising god, the Pelasgian Mercury that had been brought to Samothrace, and whereon that sacred island of Samothrace, so many heroes throughout history and demigods had been initiated, not the least of which being Jason and the Argonauts, that tradition, Orpheus, Dardanus, Cadmus, and so on and so forth. Cadmus actually being the Pelasgian Mercury. So yeah, that's the emasculation tradition that is preserved in the circumcision, still practiced today. Right, that's why the dying and rising god so often is said to have the genitalia removed, like in the case of Osiris, where it's removed and that's the one piece after he's cut up into 14 pieces that can't be recovered. It's the same thing that happened to Casmillus in Samothrace, and so on and so forth. So, continuing, it is for this reason that Abraham, whom Philo calls an astronomer and a mathematician, is represented as getting circumcised when he was 99 years old. And it's just the dedication to the mother goddess. It's this old Kabirian cult preserved by secret societies such as Freemasonry in modern day. In fact, knowledge and the holy doctrine were only known to the priesthood and only taught in the mysteries. Strabo says that he formed one of the college of priests and that he was an Egyptian priest. He was the son-in-law of a priest who was a stranger to the worship of Jehovah. 2 Egyptian priests are associated with Moses, and Timaeus and Pliny, Clemens Alexandrinus and Philo say, Moses erat theologus et propheta sacrarum legum interprets. Therefore, as the Hebrew religion did not exist in Egypt, and as the Hebrews had no written law, there could be no worship possible except the Egyptian worship. Moses, therefore, was a sacred scribe and an interpreter of the holy doctrine taught in the Egyptian temples. Ancient authors have considered him to be the real Hermes, and have attributed to him the foundation of one of the towns called Hermopolis. Diodorus Siculus says that Moses pretended to receive his laws from the god called Yao, which is the name of Dionysus, right, the demiurge. That is Prometheus. So, ancient authors, right, Artapanus. According to Artapanus, Moses is he who the Greeks called Musaeus. He was, however, not, as in the Greek legend, the pupil, but the teacher of Orpheus. Wherefore, Moses is not only the inventor of many useful appliances and arts, such as navigation, architecture, military strategy, and philosophy, but is also the real founder of the Greek-Egyptian worship. By the Egyptians, whose political system he organized, Moses was called Hermes, because he expounded the writings of the priests. And they say in here, credited with the founding of Hermopolis, that was the town where the Egyptian Ogdoad was worshipped, the Egyptian Caballero, that is. That is the mystery rites, right? Where Thoth was ruler and referred to as the Lord of Eshmun, which is the 8th region, right? The Lord of the 8th region. We discussed this in prior videos already. So there's the Moses connection to the mysteries. All right, much love.